Here we're going to talk about sign fraction addition or subtraction. So now our fractions can be positive or negative. We still know that we need to find an LCD, a least common denominator, because our fractions are talking about, the bottom is talking about the size of the pieces. So one way to think about this, instead of saying 1/8 and 1/2, this is 1/1/8 size piece and 1/1/2 size piece. We can't do anything with them until they're the same size pieces. Now something really small that I notice makes a really big difference that I like to do before I even start these is, notice a lot of times they'll put the negative in front of the fraction, which is fine. It shows that it's a negative number. But it can blend in really easily and get forgotten about with the fraction bar. And so something really simple, rewriting it to put the negatives on the top, and even if you want to, you can put plus a negative, right, is the same as minus either way. So this was a negative number, this was a negative number, there's still two negative numbers. Sometimes that makes it easier to remember, am I putting it on the top or the bottom? Because you can do either. It's a little more normal to put them on the top, but you can do either. It makes it a negative number. It's just easier to see. Those negatives are very little, they're easy to forget about. Okay, so here, what's our least common denominator? Well, we're kind of in luck a little bit on this one. Sometimes your least common denominator can be one of your denominators. Here, 2 goes into 8, and so we don't have to change -1/8 at all, but what do we need to multiply 2 by to turn it into 8 is 4. But we have to do 4 over 4 because we're trying to come up with an equivalent fraction, not change what it's worth, but rewrite it in another name. So we have -1/8 plus -1 times 4 is -4. So there's a moment where that makes it easier to remember about the negative, over 8. Now that they're the same size pieces, maybe even before I think about the addition or the subtraction, I'll just write my denominator. You never add denominators because they're telling you the size of the pieces, not how many there are. So we have -1 1/8 size piece and -4 1/8 size piece. So now that they're all the same size, we can say, okay, well, if I have -1 of something plus -4 of them, how many do I have? So -1 plus -4 is -5. And so our full answer is -5/8. And there's another way where the negative on the top helps because you're only adding or subtracting the top numbers anyways, because those are the only ones that tell you how many of something you're talking about. All right, let's try one more example. So -2/3 plus 1/7. So here, definitely not the same size pieces. -2 1/3 size pieces and 1 1/7 size piece. It's a mouthful. What can we make them the same size? So the smallest number that 3 and 7 both go into seems to be 21. Notice too, if these don't have any common factors, then you can just multiply them together, gives you the least common denominator. So if I want to turn them both into 21, I have to multiply this one by 3 over 3. And I have to multiply this one by 7 over 7. So first one becomes -14 over 21 plus 1 times 3, 3 over 21. So now we have the same size pieces. So I know my answer is going to be 21st size pieces. So now I can just focus on adding the top numbers. Well, one's negative, one's positive. So we know that's going 14 to the left and 3 back to the right. So it ends up looking like subtraction. The difference between 14 and 3 is 11. And we know that it's going to be -11 because -14 is the bigger number. And then we'll double check in the back of our head, although this one's a little easier because 11's a prime number. The only thing that multiplies to give you 11 is 11 and 1, and those don't go into 21. So just make sure you're checking to make sure your fractions are simplified at the end. We're in luck. This one happens to already be simplified for us.